Good morning. Welcome to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, live financial news talk radio. Awesome to be with you this morning. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, and we're going to talk about money. Especially this first hour, we're going to talk about the money and taxes. You know, your favorite topic, taxes. One of my things these days is, we've got inflation, but let's get Uncle Sam, the Treasury, to offset that for us. If we can save money on taxes, think about it. On all of your dollars, inflation, let's say it impacts us 10% this year. And think of consumables. Here's the road I'm going down, just so you have an idea this hour. Your consumables, let's say, are 50% of your income. So it's 10% increase on inflation. I'm just making round numbers because inflation hasn't been said to be that high, but it's probably getting there. But 10% on half of your income. So if we could save 5% on overall income on taxes, then you've offset inflation. Think about it. That's where I'm coming from. And knowing taxes are going up in the future, so what if we could shift money that opts out of taxes? That's what I'm talking about. Talking about a big offset and having, reduce your qualified money, those 401ks, IRAs, that you're going to have to take money from in the future. So if we can make a dent in that and not have to pay any taxes on future growth on money, that's going to offset a lot of inflation. We have Jude Heath CPA, one of the principals over at J. Heath and Company, CPAs this hour with us. So we're going to circle back around on that. I'm going to bounce that off of him as well. Get him in the conversation. Congress is talking about some other, it looks like they're going to pass a couple other bills. They're trying to get stuff through before everything shifts in November. And I think there is going to be a shift when the president has 30% favorable rating, 31%. I don't know. Don't hold me exactly to that. It could be a couple points higher. The reality is maybe it's a couple points lower. But meaning majority of people polled are not happy. So that's going to translate into the voting booth for some people. Probably enough to shift things. And look, history tells us it happens. Trump had, when he was put in office by the voters 2 years in, and he didn't have majorities in the Senate and the House, meaning an overwhelming majority that they could just pass whatever, but he had a majority. They controlled Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. Not overwhelmingly, but they had control. And he had for 2 years. And that's where they got the Tax Cut Jobs Act through. And it's going to sunset on December 31st of 2025. So, the corporate tax, they pretty much became a permanent reduction. We'll talk about that today as well. But the individual sunsets. And then after 2 years, what happened? Yeah, he didn't have control of Congress at all. They didn't have majorities on the House side. They may have, as I recall, on the Senate side, but he didn't have it all in favor. Yeah, it was, Jude just held his two fingers together really close, very narrow margin. So with that said, history tells us, and I've gone over the history of the Senate with you before, and presidents, and how these things cycle. And so I'm not being biased here. I'm just telling you what history tells us, that a shift is coming. And when you see so much unhappiness, and I'll tell you, there are not that many people driving electric cars. So most people are being impacted every time they pull up to the pump or go to the grocery store. You know, I don't necessarily like buying hamburger meat and chicken. I don't necessarily look at price per pound, but I know what I buy, and I notice the prices are higher. I'm not getting out a calculator and doing a percentage. You know, if I'm wanting to buy a pack of chicken breasts and a couple pounds of sirloin, I got to buy it, but I do notice that it's higher, and the gas pump as well, just like you do. So if we could shave taxes off in the future, and this is part of ongoing planning. I know Jude's kind of focused, and you can give me your take on that here in a moment, but you know, Jude kind of gives you the bad news. Well, yeah, this is what last year looked like. Well, what I want us also to think about going forward is how can we make adjustments so when he gives you that news, it's more pleasant. I mean, yeah, your income went up, but you paid less taxes. Why? Maybe it could be because of the ongoing planning going forward. And instead of just taking it, let's be proactive in making adjustments going forward, and knowing taxes are set to go up. And tell me, do you feel that vibe that they're just going to say, oh no, we're going to lock in these tax rates and not have them go up? Why would they? They're not wanting to do that. And they don't want to make you mad by raising taxes on individuals. Why? Because it's already automatically going to happen. It's like, it's not our fault, it's Trump's fault. He reduced it, but it was temporary. It's his fault. Whoever's in power is going to pass the blame to somebody else. So what it tells us, we have an opportunity, but it's work we have to do going forward. Another phrase I like to use now, have you ever been boat sailing? So it's been quite a while for me, but I've done it a few times, and it's a fun thing, but it is kind of work. Why? You have to keep making adjustments. So for those that are sailors, and those of us that have watched it, especially when you watch those sailboat races, those yachts, sometimes we don't see that. I've not seen any lately, but I've seen it enough, and then sometimes in a movie or something, they'll show somebody do it. It's pretty cool. But man, they're always jumping around. You see them spinning this thing to tighten up the sail, or they're lowering a sail and raising another one. What are they doing? They're making adjustments to the sail. So question for you, is it the wind or is it the set of the sail? If it's the wind, well, all we got to do is get it right when we start, and then we're headed that way. No, that'll get you started. You know, it's kind of like a plan. It gets you started, but planning is ongoing. Planning for taxes is ongoing. That's one reason in what we do at my day job in the firm is we do a tax efficiency report. Like somebody comes in for a first visit, we're asking for the tax return. Why? We want to do a tax efficiency report to kind of take a look at what's going on, your income bracket, possible impact on Social Security, income, Medicare premiums. What does it look down the road? Where are some opportunities, suggestions like HSAs and so forth? And we could look at projected income. Well, what if you do this? How does this impact next year? And another, what does that look like 2 years down the road? Where are your opportunities there? And we get callers that, well, what if I sell this house? What if I sell this property? What's the impact of that? Inheritance, all those scenarios. And that's an important reason why we look forward. Why? It's planning. We're having to adjust the sale. Jude Heath, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Really good.
How's the tax world?
Oh, it's terrific. We're gearing up for September the 15th, the big LLC deadline, the final LLC deadline of the year. And then right after that, we'll have October the 15th. In the middle of that, we've got estimated payment deadline, September the 15th for the third quarter payment. So we've always got our deadlines in front of us and seeing our clients. And you know, like you, when we talk about, you know, tax direction, we know that with the inflation numbers that we have right now, it would be very politically incorrect to raise tax rates on individuals. But we also know that the government's going to have to get more taxes still out of the populace in order to pay for what's happened in the past. You and I have talked about that many times. And so we know tax rates are going up through the years, right? And so when we plan taxes for, you know, not just your clients, our clients, and we look throughout the years, if we've got like a retiree that's maybe got 10 years to go before they have to take required minimum distribution, we don't want to leave anything on the table. If there's some smaller brackets that they can take advantage of, we're going to use that. And so that's the kind of tax planning I think you're talking about, which combines both of our firms where we put our minds together and put out the best product for the individual client.
When we're going to come up on a break here in about a minute. When we come back from that, I want to talk about what's going on in Congress right now and your take on it, because they've got a bill looks like going to pass. They have an agreement. There's some tax impact, and what I'm aware of is on the corporate side, but I don't know if they're doing anything on the personal side, IRAs or contributions or anything from that standpoint. But we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. But I like that conceptually, that can we save taxes in the future? And if we can do that ongoing, because inflation is not just going to keep going at this rate. At the past 170 years, we've had 21 years of 7% or more of inflation. So history tells us it doesn't just keep going. But what I'd like to do is have a reduction in taxes that just keeps going forward for us. So we'll talk about that. You'll listen to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks and our guest Jude Heath in studio. We'll be right back.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Would this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hello, Gumbo Nation. This is Dwayne Stein with Mortgage Gumbo, and I want to thank you. For almost 8 years, you've been listening to me weekly on Mortgage Gumbo, providing you with free education and options advice when it comes to home lending. And while these times may be unique, we've got this. For more than 30 years, I've been mortgage lending in your market, getting clients just like you the best loan at the best rate for the cheapest cost you qualify for. Let's chat. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
If you do not have money set aside. You do not have retirement assets. You don't have significant savings. You're thinking, well, when should I turn on Social Security? I'll answer that for you right now. You should probably work as long as you possibly can and as much as you can, because that means you defer Social Security as long as you can up to age 70. And you can keep working past that. That's fine. But at age 70, you have to turn it on because you've maximized it there. And you've created the largest possible payment, and you're going to need all of that.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us this morning. You can watch the show over on Facebook Live. We're streaming there. You can follow us on the Winning at Life Facebook page. Also, my personal page, Gregory Ricks. Go over there and follow it and share the show, because we are streaming on Facebook Live, also on YouTube, so you can sit in your room in your home and watch us on TV. You're listening to us if you're driving or doing things. And hey, if you're on your smartphone, put it on speaker so everybody around you can hear it. If you're out there in the store shopping or something, share the show, show some love. You can, well, I was going to about say you can join the conversation. We're having a little phone technicalities this morning. But one of the ways you can reach out to us is through the Winning at Life app. Go ahead and download that. And you could text us through the Winning at Life app. The email, if you've got some questions this morning, I expect the phones to come back on. But with that said, you can text us through the app or email questions, info@GregoryRicks.com. So I have Jude Heath in studio with me this hour. And, you know, with Jude Heath, he's a CPA, one of the founders of J. Heath and Company CPAs. And the guy, they're great in the tax world, and that's really their jam. Whether or not you're needing to get stuff done and talk about efficiency, or if you hadn't filed in 7 years and you're losing sleep over it, you know, his firm is the people to call. Really good. And we've worked with other firms in the past, and some of my thing is like I get annoyed when I have to coach up CPAs. Like, you should know this, but with Jude, never had to. We have great conversations, and we're on the same page on these ever-changing, and it is ever-changing rules in the tax world. One of the IRA conferences I went to a few months ago, and I've got another one upcoming, I think in October. But the stuff we go through, the two binders combined is like 5 inches thick of information and changes. And some of that is based on law changes, you know, the court decisions in the tax court. Do you get notifications on that? Because from what I'm aware of, that's stuff like almost daily stuff comes across on the private letter rulings, because there's a lot of that. And that's kind of like you mess up, and then you got to get an attorney, spend a bunch of money to try to get it overturned. And that kind of also sets rules going forward based upon how they judge those rulings. Okay, big deal in the news this week is another bill going through. Looks like they're going to tax and spend, kind of. You were telling me it looks like they say it's going to be neutral.
That's what they're saying, is that it's paid for. It's paid for by corporate minimum taxes.
Yeah, so tell us what your thoughts on the corporate minimum tax, how they do that. And the reason behind that is, and we've seen it where Amazon has all these ridiculous revenues, but they didn't owe any tax. And I'm not picking on them, but other companies do it. And typically and it's probably ongoing, but it's kind of more noticeable where you have a startup for years. Amazon had all these revenues, but it was all expensed away because they're probably borrowing money, getting revenues, and reinvesting everything for hope of being profitable in the future. And then come along sometimes, well, we didn't have to pay anything, or they don't pay much. And there's a lot of companies out there that seem to like, gosh, that wasn't a big tax bill for what all money came through there. So I think this is what they're trying to get at, is have a minimum tax. So could you help us? Because they're saying, what, we're going to install a 15% minimum corporate tax. So how does that work?
Well, I haven't read the details, but I can tell you some of their ideas could be to limit the NOL carry forward on corporations. That's a net operating loss. They could limit credits. A lot of these big corporations take tax credits, either research and development tax credits or other tax credits. They could limit those by up to 85% or something like that. They're going to get to some type of modified adjusted gross income that creates a minimum taxable income so that they can get that 15%, even if it's just for publicity purposes. It's a big sticking issue with that particular side. The Democrats, they want to show that they're taxing these big corporations at least on a minimum basis, and they're publicly saying that this bill is paid for all the infrastructure that they're planning to put in place. This bill is paid for by these corporate minimum taxes. So it'll be interesting. The devil's in the details. It'll be interesting to see how they roll that out and what rulings they put in place.
Headline here from Wall Street Journal. Let's see, what's the date on this one? It is July 30th, today. On it by Richard Rubin over at Wall Street Journal. And the title of the article is Democrats' Corporate Tax Plan Threatens Higher Bills for Manufacturers. Proposed 15% minimum tax on large profitable companies would claw back benefits of faster equipment write-offs. Tell me and the listeners how that works.
So typically, there is an immediate write-off on equipment up to $1 million of accumulated depreciation or depreciation immediately, and so this is used by airlines. This is used by big chip manufacturers. All types of manufacturing will place big parts in place and take an immediate write-off. So what Rubin's saying in there is that they might limit that to 85% or something along those lines to get to their 15% minimum taxable income.
In the article, it says the 15% minimum tax would take effect next year and apply to U.S.-based companies that report financial statement profits averaging at least $1 billion over 3 years, according to the released information regarding the bill. The proposal, if it becomes law, would raise companies' tax bills until they hit that minimum tax rate. It would affect some companies that generate income in low-tax foreign jurisdictions or aggressive tax planning to drive their global tax rates far below the 21% of U.S. corporate tax rate. And they go on to say much of the money would likely come from companies that report low tax rates now because of their capital investments in factories and machines, for example, are treated differently in tax and financial accounting. kind of led to what I was talking to earlier is companies growing and investing in growth. This is going to impact how a company grows then if they're being taxed. And, they've got to adjust outflow of capital for it. They're going to be taxed on it anyhow that they're expending it. Would you agree?
I do, and I'll tell you that the accountants that work for these companies, tax savings are a big part of the financial analysis and the return on investment on some of these big equipment purchases. And I know from sitting in continuing education that, one of the reasons why we've had such terrific air travel and so few crashes is because of the immediate write-off of some big components that go in these airplanes, because they'll immediately replace an engine, they'll immediately replace a major component part and take an immediate write-off. And so as we get towards the end of the year, they'll immediately repair, replace, because they might be sitting on some taxable income. And so there are always ramifications. I hope there aren't too many ramifications from reducing the amount that these big corporations can write off. But we don't have any billion-dollar clients, so it doesn't affect any of our particular clients. But it should be interesting to watch how these corporations manage the changes in the tax law, because they're doing exactly the same thing that you and I are talking about doing for our clients. They're doing these multi-year ROI projections where they're looking at the tax savings. That's a big projection of cash savings, and they're making decisions. So it's ongoing.
Overall, the plan would affect about 150 companies annually and raise about $313 billion over the decade, according to a report this week from a joint committee on taxation. Nearly half the revenue would come from manufacturers, the committee said. This is a domestic manufacturing tax, plain and simple, Senator Mike Crapo, Republican Idaho, said. So there's going to be some impact, but you know what? They still got to make the revenue. They still got to replace engines. They still got to keep the companies going. They've got to, whatever it is they're doing. So that ultimately gets passed to somebody. Yeah, the consumer.
You and me.
It's, right. Yeah, somebody buying the aircraft, somebody buying the air ticket, somebody's buying the plastic parts that are being molded, and that equipment has to be updated as well. So it's a trickle down effect. So I see this is going to add to inflation. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, and we have Jude Heath in studio. We'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Would this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you're unprepared for current market volatility and concerned about how it could impact you, take action now. I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you devise a strategy to navigate this market. Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals. Schedule a visit at GregoryRicks.com. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there, on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
We are living in historic times, extraordinary times. A lot of people need help right now, and I want you to remember your local food bank. Now, here in New Orleans, it's Second Harvest Food Bank. Over in Mobile, they've got Feeding the Gulf. But you can find your local food bank, feedingamerica.org. Food donations, monetary donations, or I know you've got some free time. Find your local food bank. Support your local food bank, especially in times like this. Do some good. feedingamerica.org.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear now says at least 25 people have died from the flooding in the eastern part of his state, and that number is likely to go higher.
Kentucky's governor thinks it could take weeks to know how many lives were lost because of this, and rescues are still happening. Hundreds of people have been rescued in the last 2 days. Some people were stranded at their homes, surrounded by water. Some of them had to swim to their neighbors' homes or even roofs for safety, and we know that there are still some areas that even rescue crews can't get to.
Fox's Katie Byrne, an unknown number of people are still missing. There's a new billionaire out there somewhere this morning.
The winning Mega Millions ticket for $1.28 billion was sold at a Speedway gas station in Des Plaines, Illinois. If the winner chooses the cash option, it will be worth more than $747 million.
Fox's Kevin Uretsky. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Riggs.
Ain't it fun?
Welcome back. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. You know, are you feeling the impact of the mosquitoes with all this rain? Summer rain, pretty mornings, and thunderstorms in the afternoon because of the heat. So this is what's been causing the heat for decades during the summer, especially in August, global warming. We got to do something about that. The mosquitoes, that is, coming from it. I do. I have this service. They come around and treat every few weeks, I believe it is. They hang something on my door. And they're a show sponsor, neworleans.mosquitojoe.com, 504-208-2361. I thought, I hear people complaining about it, but as far as I'm concerned, it feels like they've gone away. I don't have any impact on my property. A couple months ago, Stacy was working in some gardening kind of outside of our treated perimeter, and she says, you know, we got to get the neighbors doing this because I'm being bitten out here. I said, I didn't know there was still mosquitoes from that standpoint. Crazy. Yeah. But let's see. What is it? neworleans.mosquitojoe.com. Yeah. So we're a user of that. Let's see. What else do I have here? You know, taxes going up everywhere. I look at what they're doing from that corporate standpoint that we were talking about last segment. Let's see, more spending and more taxation. So they kind of said, well, it's going to be neutral. The spending's paid for. I'm not sure what they're spending it on yet. I guess global warming stuff, allowing people to get a tax credit for buying expensive electric vehicles. I don't see is there any inexpensive electric vehicles? None that I've seen. Well, and I'm not exactly out there looking at them myself. It's kind of not my jam. But, you know, they use electricity. Where's electricity come from? Natural gas, a fossil fuel. Interesting. Okay, follow the chain there. What do we have to do as we've been doing, and I think we're probably as a country the most efficient at making use of fossil fuels. But yeah, let's just quit doing it here and let's buy it elsewhere from the others that are inefficient at it. And look, I was watching a business show last night, and basically the spokesperson was saying, now, globally, countries are needing more energy because they're growing and their people are wanting to do better. And they're going to do their growth, fund it, and energize it in the most efficient way possible. And what's the cheapest form to get the most? It's fossil fuels to generate electricity and power equipment and such. So we're going to shift to a fashion where we're going to be taxed a lot to get to that, and rest of the world not too worried about it. I would kind of question that. I think we need to be mindful, but what we can do as a country is lead the way on efficiency and being better at it. Somebody's going to get rich off of figuring out how to pull the carbon out of the atmosphere. I wish I could sit down and think about it for a couple hours and figure it out. And then, okay. You think Elon Musk is rich? You're going to get a lot richer if you could figure that out. One of the problems, I think it will get figured out in time, as we always figure stuff out. So, but I get back to, so we're spending and taxing. That's where I was at. So I kind of got off the sidewalk there. But hey, I'm honest. It's how I think about things. But it's kind of like, okay, we're taxing and spending. So aren't we overspending anyhow by quite a bit every year? So we never catch up on that. So we just do some more as a country. That's not heading in the right direction. So we do more stimulus, more spending, more taxation. I've got a feeling that's not really going to help us right now with inflation from that standpoint. Let me see, where are we at on the markets? One thing, before I get back to Jude Heath here, let me give you kind of what happened this week. Fed raised short-term rates by 0.75 percentage points Wednesday. It's the fourth rate hike since March 16th of this year, making it a total of 2.25 percentage point increases this year. And that is directly from the Federal Reserve. So let's see, where are we at here? Let me get, I want to see where we are on 10-year treasuries. Get that number pulled up, and that's the dollar index. 10-year treasuries, 2.65%. So let's see how much they move this week. Oh, they actually went down. They were higher beginning of the week, so they raised the rate, and now it's lower. Let's see, where is it over the past month? It's lower than a month ago. 3 months. Let's try that. It's lower. The 10-year treasury's lower than it was 3 months ago. And we're up 2.25% since March on that. Very interesting. So what about taxes? Roth Conversions is one of, I think, the simplest way to beat Uncle Sam. I like the compounding of money. You know what that is. You take and put money to work, and it makes money. And then that money makes money. Oh, yeah, that money makes money too. It keeps going. It's called compounding. At 7.2%, my money can double every 10 years. So if I take $100,000 and in 10 years it goes to $200,000. 20 years, it goes to $400,000. What if that was Roth money And I paid taxes on, of course, on the original $100,000 to put in, but I allow it to compound. And I just gave you an example of where it made $300,000. That growth, Jude, if it's in the Roth IRA, will I ever pay taxes on it?
No, and the beautiful part about the Roth conversions and Roth as compared to, say, 401k or IRA is when you look at what you would have to have in a regular IRA to get the same amount of after-tax money as a Roth, it's significant. And so, we always, when we look to our clients, and I know you do as well, as to whether they have a Roth, should they have a Roth, can we plan for a Roth conversion? Roth conversions need to be paid for. You've got to pay the tax on the money coming out of the qualified funds and into the Roth conversion. Sometimes they need to be staged over a few years. And so but it is a nice part of your retirement package and your retirement planning because it's after-tax money. If you need to replace your car in retirement, if you need take a vacation, something like that, you don't have to pay the taxes in addition to the cost of the car or vacation. So it's nice when you don't have to take money to live out of your IRA or your 401k.
And instead of it being at $400,000, let it compound another 10 years and you're at $800,000. And you only pay taxes on $100,000, and you're not going to pay taxes on that other money. People ask me, I don't know if I have time. I'm 60. I'm telling you, if let's say you and the spouse make it to 65, I'm banging on the table here. You can't hear it, but I'm banging on it. If you make it to 65, she's likely to live to early 90s, you late 80s. And that's where we stand right now. But in 10 years, there's going to be a significant increase in life expectancy because of medical technology is probably going to increase by a multiple over the previous 10 years, which was more increased than the previous 500. So you do have time to build up more money. And we're only talking about 100,000. That's like, before this tax sunsets at these lower tax brackets and these bigger brackets, what if you converted 33,000 and a third each year for 3 years? That's $100,000. And then you just don't do anymore. You just roll with it and look what you can build to even live behind. You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
People with a lot of money fall into schemes and such. And that's whether somebody calling you on your phone or sending you an email, hey, you won the lottery, send me $3,500 so we can process it. That's what you've got to be careful for on these get-rich ideas. There's no magic bullet out there. If you can do time travel, then okay, there's probably some opportunity to jump back and grab Apple at $2 a share or start helping Bezos in his garage. And one of the things is have somebody you trust to bounce these ideas off of. And when they tell you it's a bad idea, you should take them at their word for it.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
At the core, I always tell people, I'm not here to make you rich. I'm here to make sure you don't run out of money, that you don't run out of income. That's how I look at my job. Over time, saving, making good decisions can make you rich. But what you have is, what is your core thing? Your core thing should be making money. And your core thing, you should set aside money to work elsewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to put it to risk. You could put it to safety. But your core thing makes you money. Or you tell me your core thing is the market, day trading, or gambling in the market? It shouldn't be. You should have a core thing that makes you money, and you peel some off for the future when you're done with your core.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hey, y'all. Hey, that winner over in Illinois. Call my office tomorrow. We'll give you some tax savings ideas. Somebody over there won about $1.2 billion ticket. It wasn't me because I wasn't in Illinois this week, so I didn't buy it. Darn. Hey, this is the way that money shrinks fast. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. I got a tax guy over here. I think that's if you take it's 1.2 billion if you take it over 30 years. For some people, that may be the better way to do it because half of it doesn't go away because of the lump sum. The other half doesn't go to Uncle Sam immediately. And most people are poor. Let me rephrase that. Most lottery winners are poor decision makers for the long term. They get themselves parted from most of that money. So the worst you could do is burn through it every year if you're taking it over 30 years. So for most winners, it might be better to take it over 30 years. That's a lot of money a year to burn through. And then you're saying like, darn, ran out of money. It's okay. I'm getting another check next month. Think about it that way. But $1.2 billion comes down to about $600 million. And then Uncle Sam's going to take half of that, the lump sum, then the taxes. So it leaves you with $300 million. It's like, I thought I won $1 billion. Yeah. But you're never seeing it. So it's interesting. Who really wins on that? Who, Jude?
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam. Yeah. So it's a voluntary tax, so you just gave money to your state. Ultimately, yeah, it's a pool of money, but some of that's going to the state. And then when there's a winner, and there will be a winner, somebody's going to hit the number. That's why you buy. It's just, it's 1 in 300 million is your odds of winning. But the point is, somebody's going to win. Somebody won. We'll see them on the news or something sometime in the future after they get their act together, and hopefully they don't show up today or tomorrow, which is, to me, is a bad sign when there's a big winner. It's like, oh no, this isn't going to go well. If we don't hear from them for a month or so, okay, they either don't know they won, can't find the ticket, or they're doing their planning as they should. Get their ducks in a row before you get it. And somebody had told me about their firm had pulled money together. I think it was like 30 employees. So I saw some of them headed to work today that told me about that. And I was thinking, well, they didn't win. But, if they did, it's still, once you do all the deductions, it's about $10 million a person. It was like, wasn't that thing $1.2 billion? So it's a voluntary tax, and then Uncle Sam gets the biggest chunk out of it, your state and federal taxes. It's going to be taxed most likely by both, subject to state rules. I don't know that anybody waives it. If that was like Florida or Texas, would the state get a piece of that on a lump sum? Do you know?
There's no income tax on those states. Now, just to help you out, Gregory, you do get to deduct your other gambling losses against that.
So you can write off
billion.
those tickets that didn't win?
Yeah, and any horse racing or.
Okay. Well, there we go. So I thought I'd share with that. Well, okay, let's get back to Roth conversions. We couldn't convert the lottery, so let's get back to Roth conversions and back to winning with our money. So we were talking about what if you did a conversion, and we talked about this. You could do less or more subject to your margin in your tax brackets. What I mean by margin, let's say in the 22% tax bracket, your household income is $100,000. That top of the 22% tax bracket is $178,000. Plus, you've getting a standard deduction for both of you. What's that? Around $20K?
Yep, 25.
Yeah, so that's almost $100,000 margin right there. But let's say, and you got a big old fat tax infested IRA, 401K. Yeah, Jude's liking that. Yeah, tax infested account, and you're kind of saying, well, you could shift as much as $100,000, but there's a tax bill on that. But I talked earlier. What if you do $33,000 for 3 years in a row? So we'll just keep it at that simple math. But you could end up doing less. You might say, well, I'm in the 12% bracket. My income was 60 after deduction, so it gives you about a 23 mark. You could convert 20,000 in that case. But earlier I was talking about 33,000 a year for 3 years, and that gets you to 100,000. And in 30 years, that could compound at 7.2% hypothetically to $800,000, and you only had to pay tax on 100,000. You made it simpler because you said on the break, what's the worst tax rate could be on that 33,000?
Well, we were talking about most folks are in the 20s. And, from doing a lot of returns, most folks, average a little small refund, either, some child tax credits or something like that. And, say a $3,000 refund, if it cost you $6,000, $8,000 for this conversion, now you're only out $4,000 or $5,000. And if you plan it, the beauty of that is you could go up on your withholdings a little bit throughout the year, cost you even less. And so it comes to the fact that it's almost paid for anyway when you do it in small increments like what you're talking about.
That's one reason to look at the tax efficiency report. You provide one, we provide one, and look forward to kind of see what would be the impact of that. Plan for it. Don't just on a whim, because when you do a Roth conversion, and I need to explain this, you used to could change your mind, but a few years they pulled that off the table. It was called recharacterization. There's really no such thing anymore, because once you do a Roth conversion, it's done. So you need to look to what that tax bill is going to be, because I had people recharacterize like, and it was clear of what the bill's going to be, but when it actually shows up, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to do it now. Okay. Well, now when you do it, you have to, you can't change your mind. You can't have regrets. It's kind of like buying that F-150, driving it off the lot, and the wife says, why did you do that? Take it back. I don't know that that's such an easy thing to take that truck back. Okay, with that said, but you gave me a number. If we do 33,000, when you kind of look at what's the tax bill, so they don't have any deductions. For most people, about $6,500 is what you said?
Correct.
We're kind of good there. Worst case, you said, worst case, max tax bracket, about $11K.
Yes.
Okay. And if you can pay that, now you've got $33,000. And for most people, or probably most of the population, are somewhere between 12 to 24%. Most taxpayers are in that range that pay taxes. Not everybody pays taxes.
And most taxpayers get a little small refund.
Yes. Awesome. So it's not that bad of a hit. Then you have, and you have that 33,000 go into an account, and it can start working. And then you do it 2 years in a row, you've got 100,000 there. And what if you didn't do any more thereafter? It just didn't work right for you because now you're in retirement, let's say, and you just don't have the room in your budget. But we can let that money compound. And that's the magic of it, is being able to put it to work and leave it alone for a good period of years. And if you could do so for 20 years, that 100,000 at 7.2% goes to 400,000. Here's one of the other things regarding estate planning is when both of you die in the household, the husband and wife as an example, and you're leaving it to your kids, they have to spend the money down in 10 years. These IRAs, these tax-infested accounts that you have, they have to spend it down in 10 years. That's the rule going forward. If it's a Roth, so go back, it's a traditional account. Most of you are leaving behind tax-infested accounts, so they got to spend it down. They got to pay taxes. It's got to go on top of their income and such. It's not optional. It has to be done during the 10 years, finished out during year 10. So you're impacting, and meaning you're going to cause that money to be taxed even more in the future, doing a good thing by leaving it behind. But what if a chunk of that became that Roth and it grew for 30 years? You're leaving behind 800,000. Yeah, they have to spend it down, but does it go on the 1040, Jude?
No, it does not.
It does not ever go on the 1040. Roth is kind of this magical thing that we have. Couple rules. That Roth account has to be alive for 5 years for you to take money out tax-free, and you've got to be beyond age 59 and a half. Couple simple things, no biggie, because we want it to grow. Any other thoughts on tax savings? We got about a minute left in this hour.
So the main thing for us is, to keep up with your taxes and your bookkeeping on a regular basis if you have a small business. It's just helpful to have all that pulled together where we can take a look at it on a regular basis and advise and really protect you from, like you say, making any tax missteps. Sometimes, like you were alluding to, Gregory, people they get this big thing of I'm gonna do something, and then they do it immediately without consulting with an advisor, and turns into a mistake. So, proper planning works.
Yeah, I think it's really important to reach out and get some guidance and help, especially when you're coming into money. Don't shortcut it and have Uncle Sam sending you those letters later. You're listening to Winning at Life. We're going to be back here in a few minutes after the break.
From the Gregory Ricks and Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO-FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station.
The number of dead in Kentucky increases while the Southwest watches for flash floods. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. 25 now confirmed dead from massive flooding in eastern Kentucky. Fox Weather's Katie Byrne in Lost Creek.
More rain on the way and storms expected tomorrow. Some people are scrambling now to clean up and dealing with some major damage.
Benji Johnson with the National Weather Service predicts heavy rains for the Southwest, as much as 2 inches per hour.
We're looking at a pretty active pattern continuing over the next few days at least.
Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, Kansas, and Oklahoma are on alert. From floods to fires, some help for communities impacted by wildfires and drought passes in the House.
A wide-ranging bill would protect watersheds, help ease the way for wildfire victims to get aid, and increase federal wildland firefighters' minimum pay to $20 an hour. The measure's aimed at helping western states that have seen massive wildfires and extended droughts in recent years. It'll also promote more mental health services for firefighters.
The act is named after Tim Hart, a smoke jumper who died on the job fighting fires. Threats from China if House Speaker Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan.
The former chief editor of the Chinese Communist Party state tabloid, the Global Times, claimed their country's military has the right to shoot the House Speaker's plane out of the sky if she goes to Taiwan. In a tweet, he said, quote, "If U.S. fighter jets escort Pelosi's plane into Taiwan, it is an invasion."
Fox's Christina Coleman. A planned visit in April was postponed when the speaker tested positive for COVID-19. A major city reports lower taxes, saying money should be in the hands of people, not government.
There are others that believe that government is the answer to all problems. And we've seen throughout the course of history that does not work out that way. So we've lowered taxes to the lowest level in recorded history.
Miami's Mayor Francis Suarez on Fox and Friends Saturday. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Fed's decision this week. We're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about compounding your money, Social Security. I'm going to read you some comments from attendees at a couple of wine, wisdom, and food events I had recently. And I had two speaking events in Baton Rouge this past week. So, and you know, whenever I speak, I always do surveys, get comments cards. What are the concerns out there? I think that's really important to always keep attuned to what's going on. Taxes came up a lot in the concern sheets. A little bit about me. I'm CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We are financial wealth advisors, and we help people with financial decisions to help them reach their goals. We do planning. You know, I think that word setting up the plan is just the start. A lot of people think, oh, got a plan? We are good. No, you need to think of it as a relationship that goes forward. When you come in for a meeting with my team, think of it this way. It is a fit visit. Are we a fit in working together? Are you comfortable? Because you should be looking at this as a long-term relationship because, yeah, we're going to put together a plan. We're going to do Social Security assessments every year until you both turn on Social Security. We're going to do tax efficiency analysis every year until we don't have to pay taxes anymore. Or we've converted everything to tax-free money. That would be a great way to go. I know people that have done that kind of have opted out of the tax system. Income and expense analysis, risk analysis. Yeah, your view on risk changes, especially now. Previous to this year, well, the market was up. I asked the group, one of the groups the other night, when I was speaking to them, I was like, you probably are carrying more risk than you're presently comfortable with. Why? You probably thought, well, this market's never going down. It just goes up every year. Yeah, we had an anomaly the past 10 years. The market was up 9 of the last 10 years. Then I asked the audience, anybody know which year was the down year? Well, if I had said the past 20 years, you know what they would have answered? 2008. That's the easy one. But no, the past 10 years. So that excludes that. Nobody can answer it. Can you? I'll help you. It's 2018. 2018 was the last negative year. It wasn't that much. It was a little over 4% based on the S&P 500 index. So, yeah, we had an anomaly. But you know what? I think we're going to have more going forward. And look, we had tumbles during that past 10 years. You remember COVID? There was a 30% drop that year. No, it was. The market finished up for the year. Yeah, it does that. Past 33 years, we've had 20 times where the market has dropped 20% or more. Some data I'm giving you today comes from BTN Research. But you could go to the market indices websites and see that, or Yahoo Finance. The data's there. It's easy to find. But we have these historical numbers. Hey, if you've got some questions, I know I'm already rolling down the path here of Financial Talk Radio. But if you want to join the conversation, it's real easy. You can text, email, call us through the Winning at Life app, or email me, info@gregoryricks.com. You could try us by calling 504-260-0995, but I think we have some phone difficulties, technical issues this morning, so I don't think they're up. But you could reach out through the Winning at Life app, text us, or email questions, info@gregoryricks.com. So yeah, the markets tumble somewhat. And I've got Jude Heath here in studio with me. We had him on for the first hour of the show, and we were talking about taxes and had a great conversation regarding Roth conversions there. And he agreed he's going to stay on a little bit longer with us. He's probably got other things to do, like tax efficiency reports, and he said, I can't wait to get back, do me some more tax returns. But your job never ends. I used to, a long time ago, I knew folks that's in your business and running tax preparation services, which that's not the same as what you do, I believe. You know, like call it the H&R Block or some variations of Rocket Tax, Summit Tax, Mount Everest Tax. You know, I'm just making up some names. So I'm not picking on any firms or anything. Hard Rock Tax and all that. And I guess their business is kind of focused through April 15th, or used to be. But you're always talking about, you know, you've got quarterly payments got to be in, the extensions are due. Like, when does your tax year actually end?
We work all year long. You know, when the light hits our eyes in the morning, we go to work. And
I like that.
Yeah. And so, you know, even after October the 15th, you know, then we gear up to tax planning for the year because all of our small business clients want to know, well, what can I keep? What do I owe? Minimize it, and what's left for me. And so we're maximizing retirement contributions. We're doing all those calculations, and it's gotten to be quite sizable over the years, but it's fun to keep up with the clients more than once or twice a year. We're talking to them many times during the year. What that does is that allows the freedom. They can reach out to us if they even just hear something. Hey, a buddy of mine said this tax law helped him with this. We'll run it down. I love to research tax questions that come in from clients because sometimes we'll find that there's validity to it. We need to follow the rules, but there is some validity to something that they heard fishing with their buddy. So we work all year long. We don't we don't go fishing after April the 15th or October the 15th or whatever it is. We we're in it because taxes are all year long.
Well, if you had hit that Powerball, no, not Powerball, the Mega Millions last night, you could have went and got you a boat and a truck to pull it today, huh?
You know, I don't know if y'all want me on the water.
I don't know. I always say that seems like work. And then I see somebody pulling along a nice big boat, and I was like, yeah, it looks like work to me. I'm just, I'm good. Actually, my wife has a small boat now, and it sits in a boat dock, and she just has to lower it to get into the water. To me, that's kind of the easy thing. So I'm happy for her that she finally got a small boat, and because it's not a big boat, no yacht or anything, it lowers into the water. So it's easy on me. I'm not having to hook it up and pull it and take it somewhere. I've got a question I want to get back to. I just was starting to make that joke because somebody over there in Illinois, if you woke up, check the numbers, call my office at 504-832-9200 if you're looking for some help on creating tax efficiency. You can get Jude and I to work for you next week on doing some planning. And if they're showing up on the news today or tomorrow, I think it's bad sign. They didn't do any planning. They just ran out. Oh, I want my money. Well, soon to be parted from this lottery winner. That's kind of my take on that. Hey, I had a question last week on, I think it was 2 weeks on the show, a caller, and I spoke to him this past week, a couple days ago. He called and we talked about this some more. He was utilized the Backdoor Roth because there's a income rule that excludes you if your income reaches a certain level, that you can't do Roth contributions. There's no income limit on Roth conversion. So he doesn't have a traditional account. So he does a contribution to a traditional account and then converts it short time thereafter and does that yearly for him and his wife. He's over 50, so he gets $14,000 into his Roth account every year by doing so, but they don't have any traditional accounts. Here's the question. He's thinking of moving money from his 401k this year and wants to still get in his Backdoor Roth contribution this year. And one reason he wants some of that money moved because he's doing a universal life insurance strategy for tax-free income into the future. I told them that your Backdoor Roth is, and I haven't looked it up, but I said, I just don't think Uncle Sam's going to let that fly, that you shift to a traditional account and have it in an account, traditional money, besides what you're doing on the Backdoor Roth. Because then they're going to say, no, that was pro rata. You can't have that money come over and have a traditional account with value besides what you're doing on the Backdoor Roth. I think that's a taxable event, and they're going to pro rata it and reject that contribution. What do you think?
I agree. We get pro rata exclusion problems all the time. When we run the numbers with clients, they're opted out. They can't backdoor or they can't convert because of the pro rata problem.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more when we come back. That's a great question. Thanks for that answer. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be right back.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? This is Dwayne Stein, your local mortgage lender. Bread prices up. Milk is up. Inflation way up. I know this can all be overwhelming. That's why you need to know I got you. Tens of thousands have trusted me and my team with their largest investment, the home. So while things look cloudy, let's work to make sure when the dust settles, your family is ready to take advantage. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there, on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
2 questions. Do you have a pulse? Do you own anything? If you said yes to both, you probably need a will. You may even need a trust. We all know a lawyer. Do you know someone who specializes in estate planning? Do you really trust the husband of your sister's friend from college? Or would you feel better putting your family in the hands of the estate planning attorney of the Total Wealth Authority? I'm Wes Blanchard. What's your plan? Offices in Metairie and at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
What we found through history, looking at the past 90 years, most fund managers don't outperform or perform as well as the indexes. Using indexing, historicals teach us skew a higher return. And yes, there's bad stocks in the S&P 500 as it looks right now, and yet the index is up. I like to use index ETFs because those are much lower expense ratios. We try our best in managing our portfolios to avoid trading costs, and we know I've been doing this for 30 years. I've studied trading strategies. You're not going to outsmart the indexes. You may get lucky, you may get unlucky.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cause you make me wanna pull this truck to the side of the road, slide on over, let me hold you close and tell you everything I'm thinking. Hop on out and let the tailgate fall, get drunk on you with no alcohol. If you don't stop.
Hey, y'all. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. You're listening to Winning at Life Radio. We do this for you every Saturday. I know a bunch of you are probably trying to call in to 504-260-0995. The phone lines are down. It's beyond my control. With that said, you can still reach out to us through the Winning at Life app. We're over on Facebook Live. You can watch us over there. We're also on YouTube Live right now. Watch it on your TVs. Do not watch it on your car screens. Do not do that. Unless you're sitting still in a parking lot, just glued to it. Had a lady at one of the events, she's really nice, came up and talked to me afterwards, and she says, you know, I'll be listening to your show, and I'll pull up at home, and then I just sat in the car in the garage listening till you're finished. I was, oh, that's sweet. Thanks for sharing that. I love all you dedicated listeners to the show, and glad that we can work to make your life better financially. And that's kind of one of the core objectives. It's you know, I look at this as a relationship business to keep working forward. We're kind of a big part of what we are, sounding boards and reasoning, critical thinking to help you with stuff that we're good at that you're not at. And that's whether it's income planning, tax planning, estate planning, investment management. And you know what? All those things kind of go together. The health care planning, cash management, risk management, all those things that we do kind of tie in. You may not need all of it, but at some point you're going to need that and other parts of it. And our clients are advocates. Oh, you're thinking about for us. No, they're advocate for their friends and family, that if they're having to make a financial decision, they need some help. They tell me, you need to ask Gregory. They'll help you. And one thing to know, to get help, you don't have to become a client. If it's a fit and you want to form a relationship and start working for it, yeah. If it's a fit both ways, yeah, we can do it. But to get help, you don't have to. Call us and ask a question. That office number is 504-832-9200. If you're trying to find Jude Heath, it's real easy. Just reach out to us. I'll make it really, all you got to do is remember my website's GregoryRicks.com. He's linked on there. My office, if you call my office, we will connect you up with him. We've worked together for years. His business cards, or you come into my office, his business cards are right there on the front desk as well. Somebody needs some tax help, call Jude. We will connect you with that. So when we went to the break, we were talking about the email, info@gregoryricks.com. So I've got that out the way. Phones having technical problems, but I've got Jude that's hanging over from hour one of the show this morning. So we were talking about the backdoor Roth, and you got me a quick answer because we had to go to break. So backdoor Roth, and you're seeing that because it's kind of said, well, I moved that money in, but I also didn't have it before I moved it in the tax year. He's trying to create an order of his own, not the order of the IRS. They're going to look at, well, it's both in the same tax year. They don't look at it by day or month. They're going to say, no, you cannot convert that whole $7,000 contribution because you also had a traditional plan in place that year. So they're going to fire it back where you were trying to do it. And they said, no, you can't do that convert that after-tax contribution. You can convert a portion of it, but it's subject to the size of the traditional account, which you're doing pro rata. You want to help them with pro rata? Because I know we've stunned some people like, what is pro rata? It's one of those weird words that will cost you tax dollars.
So it's simple in that, to me, of course, numbers wise, if you're
of course with
right,
you
right, if your Roth is 10% of your other investments, then they're going to limit that Roth contribution to be just 10%, not the full amount. And so when we've run the numbers in the past, that's the first thing we do is we say, well, we don't need just your Roth piece that you're looking to try to convert. We want all of your qualified investments. And so we'll talk about that. We'll add that up. And a lot of times when we get down to the bottom number, clients dissatisfied, well, I can't do the full amount. No, the IRS rules require you to only do the percentage piece of the total. And so it's just something you have to abide by.
Short answer, I'll give you a real in proportion is what pro rata means. And if you and the core of that rule, you can do that backdoor Roth if you don't have a traditional account with money in it. You can't have a traditional account with any value because you're setting up a traditional account and a Roth account. And that traditional account is taking the contribution only for that year, and then you can convert it because there's no income limits. But you can't say, well, that was in another account, that 100,000 IRA. No, it's in your name, so you can't do it. You're going to be taxed in proportion. The IRS rule is pro rata. So remember that. And if you have any questions, call my office, call Jude. I'll connect you with Jude. We can help you with that. And once again, do it with planning. Don't do it spur of the moment. But that's what they make that assumption. Oh, I can just convert my contribution regardless of what you have. Now, if your money's in your 401k, that's fine. You can do the backdoor Roth with a traditional account, but you can't have an IRA account. So we good? We covered on that. What about, you brought up something regarding filing separately, prenups where people were married filing separately. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so something we've been happening, and it just came up with one of your clients this week, I want to say on Wednesday. One of your team reached out to me, and I called the client. So what in a community property state, the IRS requires that when you married filing separate, that you each pick up half your income, half your withholdings, half your paycheck, half of each line on your 1040. And so what they're doing is they're not allowing one high income client to pay his taxes and say the lower income spouse to pay at a smaller bracket. They're requiring that the lower income spouse pay at the higher bracket as well. And so what I told this lady when we talked, she said, well, my husband doesn't want to file anything married filing separate. I said, well, we can certainly run the numbers for him, but it's not to his benefit unless there's some other reason other than taxes, because he's going to pay the taxes anyway. You're going to have to pay at the higher bracket, and I'll show you that. And the only way you can get out of that is if you have a prenup and segregation of property. And we did just have that come up this summer. It's a brand newlyweds, a later in life newlyweds, and she was adamant. She produced her prenup. We attached it to the filing, and we filed married filing separate with just his lower income. She's going to file separate on her own, and that is allowed in a community property state. But other than that, for the most part, if you don't have a prenup and you're in community property state, it usually works better to file together.
You know, I've seen that come up in the past, and here complaints is like, why do I have to pay taxes? He's the one creating most of the bill. I just want to pay the taxes on my portion, and it doesn't quite work that way. Okay, if we're not in community property state, they can pull that off.
Yeah, they can. That's a little bit different. You don't have to divide each line on the 1040 by spouse and each pick up half. So there's some different rules there. But of course, Louisiana and Mississippi both community property states.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of in a way of trying to game the system, and there's protections on people trying to do things with Social Security and all by being separate and trying to claim situations to, I say game it, but they're trying to take advantage of the system, but they're already like 2 steps ahead of you on that. And the tax man is also here. We had a question come up regarding QDROs. Can money, when somebody's getting a divorce, and we're going to hold this for when we come back from the break. So you go stay one more segment with us. I know you've got tax returns to go have fun looking at. So we're going to keep you one more segment here. But if you're looking for some financial help, tax help, investment help, how about long-term planning? Call my office. Whether you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mandeville, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana, Gulfport, Mississippi, or outlying areas as drivable, or Idaho, Wyoming, California, even Washington, D.C. We can help you. Just one number to call, 504-832-9200. The website is GregoryRicks.com. And if you're looking for help from Jude Heath, what is your website?
JHeathCPA.com.
See, a little bit different than GregoryRicks.com. But he's on my website as well on the team page. So reach out to us if you'd like some help. You don't have to become a client, but let's get a conversation started. We are here to help. We are Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We'll be back in, I think, about 3 minutes.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
The program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Today we see rising costs at the grocery store and the gas pump. Have you prepared for rising inflation and higher taxes in your financial plan? Get our guide, Inflation and Your Retirement. Go to GregoryRicks.com/inflation to get our guide today. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, The Total Wealth Authority.
Our firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC. Gregory Ricks and Associates are not affiliated companies.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there, on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. At least 25 people have been killed in eastern Kentucky floodwaters. The governor says that authorities are still in search and rescue mode.
It's taken out roads. It's created landslides. It's overwhelmed water systems. We can't get to some power systems and water systems because they're fully flooded. And this is in the Appalachia region. So one road being blocked can mean we can't get to dozens or even hundreds of people.
Andy Bashir with Fox's Neil Cavuto. Unrest in Iraq. The sound of protesters storming parliament in Baghdad, upset over recent government formation efforts. Iraqi security forces using tear gas and sound bombs to drive them back. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. Gregory Ricks.
You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. A little bit about me. CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We're financial wealth advisors helping people make good decisions along the financial path. We work in areas of income planning, investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, healthcare planning, risk analysis, income and expense, Social Security guidance, and probably 50 other areas. We actually, when you come in, we got a list of, by the way, we do this too. A lot of things that we do. I just kind of named off the core. Cash management also is in that core area of about 12 things that we focus. And I always define the plan as the start. Then it's about making adjustments thereafter. Anybody been sailing? Boat sailing? I have, a long time ago. It was fun. It's a lot like work. Unless you enjoy making constant adjustments for the win. It's not about the win, it's about the set of the sail. It's not about the plan, but it's the plan adjustments that are going to have to be made going forward. At least have to be forward looking. Are we needing to make adjustments? Could be because this happens, or taxes happen, or your income situation changes and such, or health impacts. So it's making adjustments going forward. Big emphasis this morning on the show is taxes, and we have Jude Heath of J. Heath and Company CPAs with us this morning. And man, you've given us some really good stuff. We had a great talk about the Backdoor, Roth, and in proportionate taxing if you have existing traditional. So you can't just do it without some planning. We also got update on these people trying to file separately in community property states. Louisiana's not the only one. So Mississippi is not community property. So that's a joint tenant state from an estate standpoint. But IRS, you kind of say, my husband, he makes all this big money. I just get a little bit. I don't want to pay his tax bracket on my part. She's wanting to keep more. And it could be flipped the other way. My wife makes all this ridiculous money. I just need my fishing money, and Uncle Sam's taking too much of it. But community property state, they don't let you do that without a prenup, you told us, right?
That's right.
Okay, so let's get to QDROs. QDROs. Questions come up time to time regarding somebody getting a divorce. And let's say one of the couple, but one of them has a big old tax-infested 401k, and they got to split that up. And it might even be a pension. So some of the questions that came up in the past from callers and listeners is, how does that happen? Can it happen now, or do they have to use it in the future? And will they be taxed, and when would they be taxed? You want to give a brief summary on how QDROs work?
So in the process of working with your legal team to effect your divorce, you can ask your attorney to begin the QDRO process of separating the qualified monies, either retirement account, 401k, pension, that sort of thing, in half. It stays tax deferred. So the question comes up is, after the QDRO is affected and the wife has her, or one spouse has her piece and the other spouse has his piece, and they move forward, then each then would do their own tax planning on when they would start to recognize taxes, or whether they could do Roth conversions or those types of things with their individual pieces as their divorce is finalized and they become two separate tax filing entities again.
Yeah. To be a little more defined there, let's say one of them has $500,000 401k or even IRA in their name, and they've got to split that up between the two of them. So in essence, half of that money goes over to the spouse and it's in their name. So they have half, that 401k or IRA is half theirs. It's not a taxable because the IRA is established and the QDRO order, it's an order to move the money to them. They're under the same tax rules. So when they do start taking money out, it is taxable at that point. It's not a tax-free event separating it out. So there'll be taxes, but they're also under the rules of regular IRA rules is you got to be age 59 and a half to take that money out. If you take it earlier, it's going to be taxed with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. It'll be subject to, there might be some exceptions there, but it'll be subject to that. Pensions would be split when they are turned on, if that's at a later time. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. We've got another thing you shared with us today. Some controversies that come up regarding tax deductions on children. Is there something unique changed there?
Yes, something has changed within the last couple of years that you have to be the birth parent on a child's birth certificate in order to be able to claim them for the child tax credits like earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, that sort of thing. Had a conversation with an IRS agent over a desk audit for a client for 2020 that all the child's tax credits were reversed. He was converted from head of household to single filing, so his taxes, went up significantly. Now the good news is, one of the children that he claimed was a child that was born that year. So I'm faxing the birth certificate to the IRS agent to show them that he's on the birth certificate as the birth parent, and he'll at least get back to head of household. He'll get one deduction back, but he's still going to lose some significant tax credits. And I was telling Gregory over the break that I had to break it to a poor grandmother this week that she supports her grandson, lives in her house, and supports her, handles the schooling, the vaccination, the doctors, everything about the grandson's life, that she could not claim these tax credits because she's not the birth parent on the birth certificate.
But that would be changed if she adopted or had adopted that child.
I would imagine if
not just given custody, but you're saying they have to be listed
on
as
the
adopting parent, which would cause a change in the birth certificate.
Correct.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, we've got a listener that has sent in a question. I've not read it, so we're going to read it fresh right here. He sent it to info@gregoryricks.com. He says, I reached 72 years of age this year and have a TSP of about 210,000. At the end of last year, TSP will be sending my required minimum distribution in March of next year to beat the deadline. So actually, his RMDs start this year, but he's waiting to the last quarter to start it. So you get an extension on the year following of your start year. They will also send my second RMD by December of 2020 in that account. So it's going to cause your RMD to be a little bit higher for the year 2023. I don't like that. That's kind of why would you use that first quarter? It's because you forgot to take it this year. I would take that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of waiting on that. But I'm not looking at his tax return either. So he might have some extenuating circumstances where he has some higher income this year. He might be expecting a lower income next year or something like that. So, but everything else being equal, I would tell him to take his piece this year.
Yeah, so simply put, the question in that paragraph is, can I take the first check to my 2022 income? Yes, you can by taking it this year. That's how you do it and cash the year. Do it in such that you have time to get it deposited in your bank account this year, or they'll count it towards next year. We're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
The single biggest financial regret of Americans surveyed by Bankrate was waiting too long to start saving for retirement. Respondents 50 and older expressed this regret at a much higher rate than younger respondents. Morningstar calculated how much you need to sock away monthly to reach the magic number of $1 million saved by 65. Assuming a 7% annual return, you'd need to save $381 a month if you start at age 25 and almost $5,800 a month starting at 55. You see, that just really becomes an obstacle when you delay.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities. If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income if you contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Can you raise your payout on your Social Security after full retirement by continuing working and paying in more? Do you get a raise for that?
Remember, the core thing is Social Security benefits you receive are based on your best 35 years. If you have less than 35 years, those are filled in with zeros. So if you're making more money this year that replaces, say, that first year of the 35, it is inflation adjusted. That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. So even while you're drawing benefits, you could well be incrementally improving your benefits.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
And a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. A pair of jeans that fit just right. And the radio up. I like to see the sun.
Winning at Life. Live financial news talk radio. So yeah, don't push your RMD into next year. Just go ahead and take it this year. It causes that 2023 one to be a little bit more in that situation. There could be other circumstances, but how do you get it on your tax year this year? Take the distribution this year. That's how the IRS looks at it. And yeah, it's okay. I don't know. You know, what's the required, here's this funky rule. What's the required beginning date? It's April 1st of the year following the year you turn age 72. Did I kind of say that right? It's kind of a weird thing to do, but basically they're giving you a quarter extension in case you miss taking it this year. I look at it, if you turn 72, you got an RMD due this year. If you forget it, you got into the first quarter of next year to do it. Don't forget it. Just take it this year unless you're pushing income. It could be a situation that you've taken a gap and you kind of like, gosh, I don't want to take it this year because I'm having me a no tax year because I'm doing some conversions. Might be the reason. I want to max out my conversion opportunity this year because I have no income. And which leads me to another tip here regarding Roth conversions. Avoid the impact of Roth conversions on Medicare IRMA charges for Parts B and D based on income. Since Medicare has a 2-year look-back provision, consider conversions before age 63. Because I know from the Social Security building up there in D.C., because they're all big buildings across from each other. With that said, it takes 2 years for them to catch up. So your Medicare premiums based on your tax return 2 years ago. Just know that. So if you're at age 63, I'm going to cash $100,000 out of my IRA and you're going to bounce your income up. Well, it's going to reflect on your Medicare premium for that year of 65. And each year, your premium's kind of based on what you made the previous 2 years. So just a thought right there to help you with that. I think that's a great thing to bring up because everybody's doesn't remember that or quite aware of it. It's something we note in our tax efficiency report that we do for everybody. And to tell you about that, as far as we are process driven, we have the guided planning system for planning. And we really like to stick to our process. That means everything gets handled. And it doesn't matter which team member, which wealth advisor at my firm you're talking to, it's the same conversation because we all follow the guided planning system process. Investment management, you're not getting a different take. They have my take. It's called the Invest 50-50 process for investing. And that's where we use multiple asset classes to minimize downside exposure, but get all of your money on a growth phase when things are good. And the conversation is the same with every advisor because we follow the Invest 50/50 process inside of the guided planning system. Here's a question that comes up time to time. It's like every year I get a number of these questions regarding this. And people do some estate planning. The attorney starts putting a trust. They set up a trust. We're going to name the trust as a beneficiary. You know, essentially your car, your gold bars in the basement, that savings account at the bank, that non-qualified investing account that you have. They're making the trust owners of that. And oh, by the way, your IRAs, we're going to make the trust beneficiaries of your IRAs. That last part I just mentioned to you is the scariest thing you can do because you just blew it up. And I have to pause this because when it comes through my office, somebody's naming beneficiaries other than a human, it gets escalated up to me because I've got to get in the conversation because what they did was create a taxable event. If you have an IRA or 401k and a trust is the beneficiary of that, I'm going to have a look-see because most cases you just created a taxable event because a trust cannot own that money. A trust cannot hold an IRA. What happens if a trust takes possession of IRA funds, Jude?
It's taxable. You don't get your 10 years. It's taxable. You know, that trust tax return picks up the taxes that year. Trust tax rates are the highest of all the brackets. So you're paying max out year one. It's ugly on the true beneficiaries, which I guess would be either your children or your heirs, have to watch that upon your demise or whatever.
Yeah, so they're probably creating some type of control. I don't trust Jacob with the money. He's kind of a little too carefree. I want to control it. Well, you actually gave a big chunk to the IRS because it's max tax bracket, so it means they're getting almost half the money. And that happens immediately. Now, you can utilize a trust, but it's a pass-through trust. So it could have the RMDs, but it's still, what happens to a non-spouse beneficiary? They've got to take it out over 10 years. You could run it through a pass-through trust, but all those funds are coming out, and they could go into a trust that controls that portion of funds.